Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Lillahi ta'ala, correct your intentions. So we started going over Al-I'rab in Al-Aajurroomiyyah, just the metin. The author said, Al-I'rab huwa taghyiru awakhir al-kalim. I'rab, Arabic case, it is the altering of the endings of the words. لاختلاف العوامل الداخلة عليها, due to the varying influencing words that come upon them. لفظا أو تقديرا, verbally that change would be, or estimated, that means intended. And I gave you different scenarios of intended i'rab, estimated i'rab. So this statement here means that i'rab is two types. That's a rule. لفظا أو تقديرا, إعراب لفظي and إعراب تقديري. وأقسامه أربعة, and its divisions are four. رفع ونصب وخفض وجزم, nominative, accusative, genitive, and jazm. That's where we left off last time. What are these? These are slots to be filled in a sentence. One of these slots is most important, which is rafa'. That's why it's always mentioned first. Rafa' is going to be for the subject of the sentence and for other things. But most immediate thing to give its importance, most immediate thing for you to recognize the importance of the priority of rafa' from amongst the categories of i'rab is that it's for the subject of the sentence. It's for other things also. Nasb is for the receiver of the verb. Receiver of the verb. That's just so broad though. This can be dissected finely, this receiver of the verb. Khafd or jar is for the object of the preposition or for the second part of the idafa. Object of the preposition or second part of the idafa. There's more, but take that. And jazm is just for verbs. I don't believe that it actually occurs in English. So that's why I didn't translate it. But some people have translated it. Inshallah, we're going to look at Hamza Yusuf translation and see what's there. So all of what I just told you now about those four is an approximation and a summary. But that's a good summary. So what's that summary? Rafa, subject of sentence. Nasb, receiver of the action. Khafd, object of preposition or second part of idafa. Jazm, that's just for verbs, Arabic verbs. If somehow exists in English, someone will show me, inshallah. So the author says, فَلِلْ أَسْمَاءِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. So for the nouns concerning that, فَلِلْ أَسْمَاءِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. So for the nouns concerning that, concerning those four categories, what applies to nouns of those four categories is al-raf'u wal-nasbu wal-khafd, nominative, accusative, genitive, وَلَا جَزْمَ فِيهَا. And there is no jazm in nouns. وَلِلْأَفْعَالِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And concerning the verbs of those four categories, there is الرفع والنصب والجزم ولا خفض فيها. Here, nominative, accusative, and jazm, and there is no genitive for the verb. The verb would never be in a state of genitive, or the verb would never be in the genitive case. Genitive case is restricted to nouns. Jazm case is restricted to verbs. What's common between the verbs and the nouns then? Rafa' and nasb. Okay. Now here, all this time I've been translating these four as you have seen here. It's written here. But I want to say to you that as far as I can tell, the most consistent out of these four between Arabic and English is khafd, genitive case. Most consistent, yani like most counterpart. Because it's just for nouns only. What I have a question is rafa' and nasb in English verbs truly? So, because we're translating rafa' as nominative. Okay, so for sure that works for a noun, nominative. Does nominative work for a verb? That word, nominative? Or we need another word? Does subjective work for a verb? Or does it need another word? And also accusative. Does it really work for a verb? So for sure they work for nouns. So rafa' in Arabic works for nouns and verbs. Nasb works for nouns and verbs in Arabic. Do you say nominative works for nouns and verbs in English? And accusative works for nouns and verbs in English? So this is an interesting question. And yani should have some research. So, okay. Now, I hope that I didn't confuse you with anything, but I do want to get that across first. Do you have any question? So I'll give you examples. All right. You say Zaydun qa'imun. Zaydun qa'imun. Okay. So Zayd here is marfu'. The sign of rafa' is a dhamma, because he's the subject of the sentence. And qa'imun is also marfu'. Sign of rafa' is a dhamma also. In this case, it's predicate of the sentence. Zayd is a noun. It's in the state of rafa'. Qa'im is a noun. It's in the state of rafa'. What if we say yaqumu Zaydun? Yaqumu Zaydun. Now, this yaqumu, that's a verb. That's fi'lun mudari'. Yaqum, fi'lun mudari' marfu'. It is the present / future tense verb. And it is in a state of rafa'. It is marfu'. لِتَجَرُّدِهِ عَنْ nasibin or jazim. It's marfu' because it is devoid of anything that would make it mansub or majzoom. So it's going to be marfu'. Yani, it's in its default state. This verb is in its default state. This فعل مضارع. So, يقوم فعل مضارع مرفوع. It is مضارع verb in the state of rafa. And زيد فاعل. Zayd is the doer. مرفوع also in the state of rafa. وعلامة رفعه ضمة. And its sign of rafa is a ضمة. So here you see the verb has a state of rafa and the noun has a state of rafa. So let's back up a little bit. فَلِلْأَسْمَاءِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. So concerning the nouns out of these four categories, there is al-rafa, nominative, wal-nasb, accusative, wal-khafd, genitive, وَلَا جَزْمَ فِيهَا, and there is no jazm for a noun. Doesn't exist, doesn't apply. وَلِلْأَفْعَالِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ, and for the verbs, there is a rafa. It's possible that a verb would be in a state of rafa, or nasb, or nasb. But would you really say nominative and accusative? Wal jazm, and the verbs also have jazm. Wala khafda fiha, and the genitive case does not apply to verbs. All right. Let me give you another example. You say, Inna Zaydan lan yaquma. Inna Zaydan lan yaquma. So here, Inna is influencing Zayd. Inna Zaydan. Inna here, this is harf nasb. This is a particle. This is an accusative particle. An accusative particle. It has the power to put, this one in particular, a noun into the state of nasb. Inna Zaydan lan. Also, lan is an accusative particle and has the power to put the verb into the state of nasb. If you're going to call it accusative in this case, because it's a verb though. Inna Zaydan lan yakuma. Indeed, Zayd shall not stand. So you say, Inna harfu nasbin wa tawkid. Inna is a particle, is an accusative particle, and a particle for intensification. It is an accusative particle and a particle for intensification. Now, when we translate, the only thing that's going to translate is the intensification. Indeed, but in Arabic, it's doing also nasb actually on the noun. Inna Zaydan. Zaydan ism inna. Zaydan here is inna's noun. Zaydan is the noun of inna. That's what you're going to call it. Ism inna. Ismu inna. Zayd is inna's noun here. So mansub in the state of nasb. Wa alamatu nasbihi, and its sign of nasb is fatha. Zahira, an apparent fatha. That means a pronounced one. Lan harfu nafyin wa nasbin wa istiqbal. Lan is, if accusative works, we're going to say lan is an accusative particle, a negating particle, and a future particle. It's an accusative, negating, future particle. Accusative means lan yakuma, makes the verb mansub. Yakuma. Negating means, the meaning here is not stand. Len. It's like la. It's a negation. And lam. It's a negation. Harfu nafi. And istiqbal. A future particle. Because it means will not stand. Any questions so far? Okay. Is it clear, or are you just in the ride with me? Clear. Okay, now let me give you another example. You say, I have a suggestion to replace the terms in English that may be more comprehensive. Okay, do share, please. And in the meantime, let me give you another example. Let's look at jazm. For example, Allah Ta'ala says, Lam yalid wa lam yulad. So there's sukoon on yalid and sukoon on yulad. Why? Because lam, harf jazm, is a particle of jazm. Wa nafi, and it's a negating particle. Wa mudi, and it's a past particle. Past, not future. Lam yalid, he did not give birth. So the power of lam to affect the verb is to put it into a state of jazm. And yalid, fi'lun mudari'un majzoom, is a mudari' verb in a state of jazm. Wa alamatu jazmi, and its sign of jazm is sukoon. Is a sukoon. Jazm means in Arabic qata', cutting or severing. And then same thing, walam yulad. But there's something actually I need to mention for you. Lam is negating particle and jazm particle. Yalid fi'lun mudari'un majzoom, is mudari' verb that's majzoom. Wa alamatu jazmihi sukoon. The sign of jazm is sukoon. And then what you must say, wal fa'il, and the doer. Where's the doer? You don't have a verb, an act without an actor, a doing without a doer. The verb is an action. Where's the doer? So whenever you mention the verb, the fi'il, you want to find the fa'il. Wal fa'il, and the doer is damirun mustatir, a veiled pronoun. Taqdiruhu, the estimation of that pronoun is huwa, he. Yalid, ay huwa. Lam yalid wa lam yulad, and then wa lam yulad, same thing, same i'rab. Just going to add the wow though. Wow, harf atuf, conjunction particle. Lam, harf jazm wa nafi. Lam is the particle of jazm and a negating particle. Yulad fi'lun mudari'un majzoom. It's a mudari' verb that's in a state of jazm. Wa alamatu jazmihi sukoon, and sign of jazm is a sukoon. So I gave you examples of rafa' and nasb. Rafa' in nouns and verbs. Nasb in nouns and verbs. And I just gave you example of jazm in verbs only. Yani, there's no way I can give you an example of jazm in a noun because it cannot happen. And still then there remains the example of jar in the nouns as far as giving an example. So you say, for example, this example, Muhammad Rasulullahi. Rasulullahi. So why the name of Allah is in a state of jar. وَعَلَامَةُ جَرِّهِ كَسْرَةٌ. And it's signed as it's in a state of jar or khafd is the kasra. لأنه مضاف إليه. It's because he's a mudaf ilayhi. Because this word is a mudaf ilayhi. That means the mudaf, the first part, is actually what's influencing. Or you say, Amantu billahi. Amantu billahi. Here. The name Allah has kasra there. Ba is harf jar. Amantu, I believe, billahi, in God. How the name Allah has a kasra there. Yani, this means it's majroor. Lafzul jalala, majroor. It's a majroor. The name of God here is in the genitive case. وَعَلَامَةُ جَرِّهِ كَسْرَةٌ. And its sign of being genitive is kasra. By the ba, harf jar. Yani, it's a majroor means object of the preposition. So that's not going to happen to a verb. Inshallah, all of that was clear for you. Let's take a moment to check out Hamza Yusuf's thing, inshallah. Okay, so here's Hamza Yusuf translation. He says, Chapter 2, Inflection and its parts. So he's calling i'rab inflection. I said case. Probably inflection is better. Is the change of the last syllable of words. So al-i'rab huwa taghyiru awakhir al-kalim. He said it's the change of the last syllable of words. That's very interesting. Now, change means more exactly, though, the Arabic means more exactly altering. Taghyir. Yani changing or altering. Altering is the altering of the last syllable of words based on the various agents of inflection that govern them. That's a pretty good translation, I think, actually. It's not bad. Inflection is the altering, the change, he says, of the last syllable of words. Subhanallah. Based on the various agents of inflection. That means the governing words, the awamil. Al-i'rab, inflection, huwa taghyiru, it is the change of awakhir al-kalim. He says, the last syllable of words. So, yani, he added the word syllable. You could stand to take the word syllable out. It's not going to be a wrong translation. But it's last syllable, last syllables. So, that's interesting translation. Based on various agents of inflection, likhtilafi, based on likhtilafi al-awamil, the various agents of inflection, ad-dakhilati alayha, that govern them, lafzan aw taqdira, either explicitly or implicitly. I find that poor translation, explicitly or implicitly. Lafzan means pronounced. Explicit means doesn't have another meaning. That's different. Taqdira means implied, yani estimated. So maybe that works. Maybe implicit works. وَأَقْسَامُهُ أَرْبَعَةٌ. The parts of inflection, so he said parts instead of divisions, are only four. He adds the word only. It's not a bad addition. That's the implication there. Raf'un wa nasbun wa khafdun and jazm. So he didn't translate them, which is fair. I'm translating with you to help you understand, inshallah. But when you don't translate and you just do like this, then you don't have to mix or worry about mixing definitions. Of these, the first three belong to nouns without any jazm. Of these, the first three belong to nouns without any jazm. Rafa', nasb, and jazm are peculiar to verbs, which have no khafd. So in his translation here, he summarized. Because what does it say in the Arabic? فَلِلْ أَسْمَاءِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. So for the nouns of that, so he said, of these, that's summary there. الرَّفْعُ وَالنَّصْبُ وَالْخَفْضُ. He named them. He repeated them. But in this translation, he didn't repeat them. He just said the first three. So he took a liberty there. Would be better to repeat them because the author did so, and maybe he did so for a reason. وَلَا جَزْمَ فِيهَا, without any jazm. Okay. Then he said, Rafa', nasb, and jazm are peculiar to verbs. So, yani, he used the word peculiar in there. It was correct meaning. But it's possible to translate it without that word. MashaAllah. Tayyib. Let's stop there. Any question? Yes, please. Share your suggestions, inshallah. Lillahi ta'ala. You said the English terms accusative and nominative are not comprehensive enough to include verbs. But I think the terms nominative inflectional state and accusative inflectional state give a more comprehensive state for the verbs. They use indicative mood. For the verbs, they use indicative mood for most present tense forms. For rafa and subjective or subjunctive mood. For rafa, indicative mood. For rafa and subjunctive mood. Or infinitive when governed by particles like len. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Barakallahu feek. Okay, so we need to add those words to the roster. Yes. So it means that if we're going to implement these words here, then we need to take note that rafa, then if we're going to translate it, it's going to translate this way or that way. Depends on if you're talking about a noun or a verb. And nasb is going to translate one way or the other way if you're talking about a noun or a verb. You said, I understood that jussive is an appropriate term for jazm. Yeah, we had talked about that. Because in English grammar, the jussive mood typically indicates commands, requests, or actions that are contingent or hypothetical. Okay. Yes, the jussive involves specific endings or vowel changes that reflect the grammatical state of the verb, often by dropping the final vowel or modifying it. For example, all right, when you say here, the jussive involves specific endings or vowel changes, so right there, you phased into Arabic. Often by dropping the final vowel or modifying it. For example, in Arabic, the verb yaktubu, he writes, changes to lam yaktub, he did not write, in the jussive form by removing the final dhamma and adding a sukoon. So I'm curious, and I never actually did look up some of those words. What does jussive mean originally? And so subjective seems maybe is clear, and nominative also seems familiar. Subjective seems familiar. Nominative seems familiar. Just think about the meanings of these words. These are not common English words. So, accusative. Why is it called accusative? Genitive. What does that mean? Jussive. That's the difference between learning Islamic sciences and learning from the kuffar. Jussive is like a command. That's what the word means. Yes. So then that's clear and obvious. What's the meaning of my question though? What does the word mean? So is it Yani? You know how in Arabic, this is really the point that I was about to make. That's the difference between learning from the Muslims, learning the Islamic sciences from the Muslims, and learning from the kuffar. Because Islam has a universal language, which is Arabic. And Arabic is firstly a language, and secondly, some of these Arabic words are being used for the terminologies of the sciences of the Muslims. Whether that's Aqidah, or it's grammar, whether it's creed, or it's grammar, or it's fiqh, or it's recitation rules, all taking from this language, Arabic language. And the terminologies they use have significance. They mean something actually outside of the field. That's what gives you comprehension. It means something outside of the field. That's why you're going to understand what's the point. So are these words just like that's all they mean, something grammatically, or they don't have original meaning? That's why you use them. That's the meaning of my question. Yani, you're going to look into Latin or Greek or something like that to find the answers to those questions. To see where did those words come from. That's one thing that makes Western education more challenging, that they have a habit of importing terminologies from other languages. I suspect it's because it makes them feel educated, but maybe it has a better reason. طيب. He said the non-Muslim linguistic concurred on the usage of jussive as a grammatical term to express the grammatical mood that typically expresses commands, requests, suggestions, or desires, often used in subordinate clauses. Okay, that's very good. That's very close. So it looks like that's the meaning then. Jussive, mashallah. Yani, at the least, it's an approximation. It's close. Maybe passable. طيب. Anything else? Ameen wa bikum. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Hey, now something just occurred to me. So rafa', for example, why do you call it rafa'? Because the highest level of i'rab. So there's meaning there. Jar, some of them said it's called jar because it pulls the meaning of the verb to the noun. Pulls the meaning of the verb to the noun. Jar means to drag or pull. طيب بارك الله فيكم.